In a recent video, I talked about some really common Ponytown builds that you see so often in Ponytown that you're kind of tired of them at this point, or at least I am. But now let's take a look at some rare builds, uncommon builds, things that you don't really see people make here in Ponytown, starting with a museum. A museum is actually really fun to make, especially when you get into like the painting side of things, or like if you try to make like a unique statue or something like that using some illusions or whatever else. I've seen people recreate really cool famous paintings here in Ponytown. Sure, they use a huge amount of objects and they use like a large portion of their island, but you can do the same thing or a similar thing on a much smaller scale really easily. It's just a blast. I love making the little figures or whatever else. I don't know. It's really fun. It's almost like doing like a Gartic phone thing or something in Ponytown, and it's a blast. But the museum itself could be filled with anything from artifacts to whatever else. I've made these before in the past, and I honestly don't think I've ever seen anyone else ever make a museum. I've definitely recommended people make museums before in the past, but I've never seen anyone advertise them at the docks. I've never just stumbled upon them randomly by joining people's islands or people sharing their islands to me. I've never seen it on the Reddit, and I don't think I've ever seen some kind of museum on the event server ever before either. So this is actually a really rare one, at least in my opinion. Have you ever been to a museum in Ponytown? Let me know in the comments below. But let's move on to number 2, which you might actually see me making in the background of this very video, and that is a mini golf course. A mini golf course is a blast to make. I don't know why I never made one before this, but I spent like an hour on this, making this, and I wasn't even finished with it. I got maybe close to halfway there, maybe a quarter of the way there, something like that, and it was just a blast. Designing the different holes and coming up with unique items that can be used as obstacles for your mini golf course, things like that, was a blast. I'm currently trying to figure out how I can maybe add flags or something like that, or how I can maybe figure out a better way to depict the holes. So if you have any suggestions or anything like that, let me know in the comments below. But I've only ever seen mini golf courses before on an event. During one of the events that happened. I forget which one it was, but there was like a Cloud City, if I'm not mistaken, and there was some random mini golf course kind of just in the middle of nowhere, and it was really cool, and I've never seen anyone make it just here in the base game. So go make your mini golf courses, guys. I know you can't technically play mini golf here in Ponytown, but it's just a blast. I love it. But let's move on to something else, which I have seen a few times, but definitely not very often, and that is a train station. A train station with a train and maybe some destinations or something like that. I've never really seen these, or really when I do, it's just like one small corner of a much larger build, like a town or a city or something like that. I see them on almost every single event server, but I don't ever see anyone making these in the base game, or at least no one ever advertising it at docks or just stumbling upon them on like Reddit or somewhere else. So go make trains, go make train stations or something like that. I have seen people make other forms of transportation, like a plane. I did many years ago see someone advertise some kind of plane roleplay where you get in a plane and you travel somewhere. That was probably a blast. I should have joined that one now thinking of it. But I don't ever see train stations or forms of transport really as it builds here in the main game, and I think you should, because it's gotta be a blast to make, right? Probably difficult, and that might be why it doesn't get made that often, but I want to see them. Show me, share them on the Reddit or something like that so I can see them. But let's move on to number 4, which I have seen this a couple of times. One of my friends have made this. I've made this before in the past, and I've done some modifications to it, but the main map on your party island. Obviously, you can't make the entire main island on your party island because it's like, I think, 50% smaller than the main map or something like that, but you can recreate small sections of the main map. I've seen people recreate the gay pool area, for example, or the campsite area, or other areas like the docks. I've seen people recreate that in Ponytown as well. So I have seen it a few times, but I never really, I don't really see it that often. And maybe it's because those locations just exist on the main map, so why make them on your party island when you can just go to them on the main map? One reason to do it would be that maybe you really love this location in Ponytown and you want to have a private conversation at this location with somebody, but you can't do it because there's always people there. Like, for example, the docks. It's always full of people. What if you could have a private dock? And so you recreate it on your island, and there you go. You now kind of have a private dock. There's all kinds of different locations and things like that in Ponytown that you can recreate on the party island, but I just don't really see it that often. And when I do see it, it's really trippy because usually the detail is really well done. They're like usually really well put together where the right things are in the right places. It's almost pixel perfect. It's crazy. Some of you guys are crazy. And I've done this before where I have taken main map locations, put them into the party island, and then just recreated them. I made an entire video where I recreated locations in the main map, but actually just redid them to make them better. You can click the card in the top right if you want to watch that video. But let's move on to number 5, which is a carnival or a fair or something to that extent. I have seen this a few times, but this I don't really ever see that often. I definitely don't ever see people advertising it, or if I do, it's like one guy and that's it, and then I never see it again or something like that, or it's months before I see something like that again. I think we should see more carnivals and stuff like that. Making the carnival games would probably be a blast, figuring out how to make them maybe even interactable and to some extent where you can pick up certain things and things like that. It could be a blast to figure out. I don't think I've ever seen this on an event server either, which is crazy too, considering it would be even easier to do on the event server and stuff like that. Actually, now come to think of it, I have seen that once. I've seen like a roller coaster and a couple of things like that. But yeah, a carnival or a fair, that would be a blast. I've only seen it once, maybe 3-ish times, and in my entire time playing Ponytown. Go make your carnivals, guys. Make your roller coasters and whatnot. It's a blast. Number 6 is and this one is kind of crazy because Ponytown players seem to love this thing, but I've never seen them actually build this thing, and that is a parade. I've never seen anyone ever make a parade in Ponytown, which is crazy to think about, and you might immediately think, how can you make a parade? It's just a bunch of people walking. But in reality, parades usually have like parade floats and cool things like that going down the road. It's not just a bunch of people, it's also either these giant balloons during like the Thanksgiving parade, for example, or something like that, or something else where you have these huge parade floats that have like dioramas on them and stuff like that. They're depicting stuff. I never see people make these. I've never seen people make parades in Ponytown, and it's kind of crazy to think about considering people love to parade in Ponytown. There's so many times where I go on at just some random time in the day, and I see a bunch of Pride characters marching around the main island, the main map, and they follow the dirt paths and stuff like that, and they make like a circle, they loop a few times or something like that, and it's a whole thing. These are parades or marches or something to that extent, but you never really see parades on the party island, and it's kind of weird to think about, but it could be fun to make. I definitely am gonna try this sometime in the future. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions for that in the comments below. But let's take a look at number 7, which is the last one I have on this list, and honestly this list could probably be like a million miles long. I tried to restrict this list to things that are possible to do in Ponytown, things that are possible to build in Ponytown. And this next one is actually pretty easy to make in Ponytown, I imagine, and that is a racetrack. I think I've seen this a couple of times, but the racetrack is usually like just a dirt circle basically or something like that. I'm talking like racetrack. Make yourself like some kind of race car type thing or something like that and design a racetrack for it. Make multiple of those race cars and have them all over the racetrack or something like that. Go wild. I think it would be awesome. It doesn't have to necessarily be huge. It doesn't have to take up the whole island. You can make this much smaller scale with maybe iron ingots or something like that as like the cars, or as certain obstacles on the road or something like that. I'd love to even see like Mario Kart tracks or something like that recreated here in Ponytown, because realistically it should be somewhat possible to do. I think I have seen Mario Kart once on the event server a long time ago. Obviously, I don't think you can make it as detailed as that, but you could definitely make some of these tracks and race cars and things like that here in Ponytown with just the items you already have. Why haven't we been doing this? Why haven't we been making race cars or something like that? I don't know. I think it could be fun. These are 7 things that I don't ever really see that common here in Ponytown. Let me know if there is any other things that you guys think aren't ever really hardly built here in Ponytown that should be built maybe more often, or could be really fun to build in Ponytown. Throw them down in the comments. Let's get rid of all these common builds and start doing these other cool builds that no one ever does. But that's going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed or found something useful out of this. If you did, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all of those wonderful things like that. Because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself. And I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.